Hi everyone, I'm Greg, Bioinformatter on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Moxfield, and Blue Sky. And I'm Bioinformatter_actual on Threads and Instagram. Got in my first shipment of Wilds of Eldraine. I opened some of the lower tier stuff, pre-release and a bundle. Um, and I can't resist. I've got to break into one of the collector packs and see how good I can do here. Out of regular size collector packs instead of the 4 to a box collector packs. So yeah, so this is a fun set. I actually, although I started getting interested in Magic around call time, uh, I worked my way back and I bought a lot of Throne of Eldraine, um, and yeah, so I'm happy to return here to this plane and the Enchanted Tales cards that are kind of like the Mystical Archive from Strixhaven, and that they have like this bonus sheet, and they do these very fancy reprints of cool older cards, and there are several of those that I actually would love to get. So we'll see how, if the luck is with me or not on this box. So I am just gonna crack into it. Yeah, so I set things to a fixed focus so that I can kind of show you the cards in closer detail, but it means that the background is a little slightly fuzzy. Okay, there's no box topper or other fancy stuff coming out of the box. So we just have our packs. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 12. 12 packs. So that's how many shots we have at the goals. Like I most want doubling season and parallel lives if I could manage it, because of all the Commander Masters I bought, I still didn't get a doubling season. And if I don't pull one out of all of the stuff that I'm gonna crack here, I will break down and buy at least a doubling season on its own, because I have one older copy of it that kind of has its home in a Lathril deck, and I don't want to like take it out and move it around. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. We're gonna get into the first pack. If I figure the right angle of attack. Okay, there we go. We have it in. Okay, now hopefully. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna take a peek because I want to know what order I need to do these in. Yeah. Okay, so we have to go from the back, because I like to build up to the good stuff. So I am going to be doing many streams here where I'm reading off the names. I think for the commons, you'll see those in I can get into detail with those. So here's Ginger Brute needed to make a reappearance. Okay, back for seconds. Tempest Heart. Ash Party Crasher. Haste. Whenever Ash Party Crasher attacks, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Ash. Okay, then we have ourselves a full art foil swamp. So that's very nice. Um, okay. Hatching plans. So that one's an uncommon. Okay, when hatching plans is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Now that one is, let me double check. Yeah, so that is an Enchanted Tales one, I guess. It's got the WOT symbol on it. Griffin Airy in foil. So that's another tail. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained 3 or more life, this turn create a 2/2 white griffin creature token with flying. Okay, we have Cruel Somnophage. So there's a lot of adventures in this set, so they kind of leaned into that. And there are even some legendary adventures so that you can actually use them as a commander, I think. But anyhow, Cruel Somnophage, target player mills 4 cards. And then this would go into exile, the way adventures work, and then you can cast it back from exile as Cruel Somnophage. The creature, which has got stars for power and toughness. So Cruel's Somnophage's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Okay. Unfinished Business. Okay, so this has got yet another symbol. So this is WOC, so that's going to be a commander. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then return up to 2 target aura and or equipment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. That actually sounds pretty cool. Baluna Grand Squall. Okay, so this is a mythic adventure, and it's a legendary creature, a giant noble. So the instant is mill 7 cards, then put all cards that have an adventure from among the milled cards into your hand. And if you cast it from exile, it's a 4/4 with trample, and permanent spells you cast that have an adventure cost 1 less to cast. Okay. Greater Oromancy. So this one is one of the tails. Other enchantments you control have Shroud, and enchanted creatures you control have Shroud. So for an Enchantress deck. And Moonshaker Cavalry in, I guess, extended art foil. So this is the white Craterhoof. So flying, when Moonshaker Cavalry enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain flying and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So that is definitely a good card. And there's a Pretty Fairy token and a food token on the other side. And just for grins, I've got the let's see, the extended art foil of the Moonshaker Cavalry is 3909 TCG mid. So yes, that's quite nice. Okay, on to the next pack. Okay. Okay. Just gonna let you see the commons kind of flip by. I know people put a lot of effort into the commons, but you know, you'll see them all over the place, right? So, cheeky house mouse. So that's target creature you control gets +1/+1 till end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater this turn. So that's a sorcery speed, and otherwise, it's just a 2/1 mouse if you get it back from exile. Tough Cookie, Food Golem. When Tough Cookie enters the battlefield, create a food token. And 2 in a green target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 4/4 artifact creature until end of turn, or you can do 2 and tap and sacrifice Tough Cookie and you gain 3 life. Yes, because it's a food. Yeah, so yes, I could see turning an Ozolith into a creature a creature with a bunch of counters on it. Frolicking Familiar. So blow off steam deals 1 damage to any target, so that's the instant. And otherwise, when you cast it from exile, it's a 2/2 otter wizard with flying. And whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell, Frolicking Familiar gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay. Ooh. Forest. Full art version. It's quite nice. Raid Bombardment. So that's one of the enchanted tales. So whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker the creature is attacking. Dark Tutelage in foil. So this is another tale. Yeah, enchanted tales. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Okay. Restless Bivouac. So foil. So there's this cycle of lands that become creatures, and then the creatures do stuff. So yeah, it enters tapped, so it's a tapped land. But it does tap for red or white. You can pay 1 a red and a white, and that's when you get the creature, which is a 2/2 red and white ox creature until end of turn, and it's still a land. And whenever that creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Court of Vantress. So this it's just the extended art version of that. When Court of Vantress enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to 1 other target enchantment or artifact. If you're the monarch, you may create a token that's a copy of it. If you're not the monarch, you may have Court of Vantress become a copy of it, except it has this ability. Okay. The monarch, you may. Yeah, so if you have the monarch, you get the advantage of making a copy of it, and you get to still have this as its own separate entity. But if not, then this becomes it, and then you can wait for until there's a better offer. That actually sounds kind of cool. So that's off of the it's got the WOC set abbreviation. So that's from the commander. Questing Druid. So this is a rare adventure, human druid. The instant adventure is exile the top 2 cards of your library until the next end step. You may play those cards, and as a creature, it comes in as a 1/1 with whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, put a +1/+1 counter on Questing Druid. Leyline of Lightning. So this is a rare of the Enchanted Tales. If Leyline of Lightning is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell, you may pay 1. If you do, Leyline of Lightning deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. Okay, and our final regular card is Forced Fruition. So this is the another Tails card, and it's in foil. So that's nice. Yeah, so whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards. So if you're trying to get someone to move through their deck too quickly, and they aren't expecting it, that could cause problems. And another fairy token with a different food on the other side. Okay, take a sip. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know that was a spectacular pack. I don't know how good Forced Fruition is. Let me double check. Switch to the other tab. So I haven't really checked much on the pricing. So the Forced Fruition foil is $4.54, not that much. I don't think. Yeah. I think there's another tab I need to open up to get the commander cards. But let's move on to the next pack. Okay. Maker Oof. Crystal Grotto. Yes, I kind of can't avoid reading off the name sometimes. So Spellscorn Coven. Adventure, take it back. Return target spell to its owner's hand. And as the second cast from exile is a flying fairy warlock with 2/3, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So, yay, discard. Tanglespan Lookout. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Tattered Ratter. So whenever a rat you control becomes blocked, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And then here is the full art Plains foil. So these are a nice set of lands. These full art lands. Another Dark Tutelage. This time it is not foil. Vampiric Rites. This one is foil. kind of get it from that angle. So sacrifice a creature. It's 1 in the black. Sacrifice a creature. You gain 1 life and draw a card. Archon of the Wild Rose. So this is a foil. Flying other creatures you control that are enchanted by auras you control have base power and toughness 4/4 and have flying. So, you know, flying can win games. Yes. So I don't know if I might have to check that one out. That's the main set. Just out of curiosity, learn as I go. Okay, Archon of the Wild Rose and foil is just $1.50. Which is weird because, yeah, it's hard to tell with TCG prices, at least from the collection interface. So the foil is worth less at TCG mid than just the normal card. But I think that's like a pricing error. It kind of happens at the beginning of one of these sets. So this is the Court of Antris again, but in the foil. Restless Cottage. So Restless Cottage enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it as a mana source for black or green. You can pay 2 in Golgari. And Restless Cottage becomes a 4/4 black and green horror creature until end of turn. It's still a land. And whenever it attacks, create a food token and exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. So I'm thinking that would need to be in consideration for my upgraded Food and Fellowship Lord of the Rings deck. I kind of like took that in my own direction. Maybe that has a home there. Yeah, there'll be a lot of things that'll be under consideration for that deck from Wilds of Eldraine, because it also has some food synergy stuff going on. And let's just check. Restless Cottage Borderless is like 311. Okay. Leyline of Abundance. So this is one of the tails. If Leyline Abundance is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. And you can do 6 and 2 green to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That Line of Abundance isn't that expensive. Okay. Likeness Looter in foil. A fairy shapeshifter. Flying, and you can tap and draw a card, then discard a card, or you can pay X, and Likeness Looter becomes a copy of a target creature card in your graveyard with a mana value X, except it has flying and this ability. Activate only as a sorcery. So that could be fun. Let's see. That's in the main set. Likeness Looter in does that qualify as that's extended art foil? So that's like six-ish. Okay. And the token was a treasure, and another food on the other side, a third version of food. Yeah, I don't know if you guys care about seeing my face during these things. A lot of times I'll go even closer up and just not have me on screen. I don't know which way works better, but it's easier to record without me on screen because I could be lazy about it and just kind of do it. Um, but yeah, so here's the next pack. So we're going to go through our comments. Which aren't uninteresting because, like, some of them are new. And okay, here's our first uncommon, Fairy Fencing. So target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. That creature gets an additional -3/-3 until end of turn if you control the fairy as you cast the spell. Cursed Courtier. Lifelink. So it's a human noble. Lifelink, when Cursed Courtier enters the battlefield, create a cursed roll token attached to it. Enchanted creature is 1/1. Yeah, so the rolls are new to this set, so it's a new mechanic, and basically the rolls are enchantment aura tokens, and you put them on creatures. Obviously, some you put on your creatures, some you can put on other creatures. And I think there's only one allowed on a creature at a time. I don't know if that's per owner or yeah. So I don't know what happens. We'll have to do a rules check later. But I think there may be something about it being who owns it. Let me see if there. Yeah, this just doesn't go into the details. We may find one that has either extra rule text or we'll get hit one of the tokens and it'll explain it. But I know that you can't have more than one, at least if they're yours. I don't know if you can have one from you and then one from another player. That might be possible, but I'm not sure. But anyhow, it's a way that there's a bunch of enchantment stuff going on in this deck. And some things care about the number of auras that are attached to things. So those roll tokens are important for that. Ruby, Daring Tracker. So haste, and whenever Ruby Daring Tracker attacks, while you control a creature with power of 4 or greater, Ruby gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You can also use Ruby as a mana source for red or green. And here is the island in full art foil. So we've got. Okay, so we need a mountain. We need a mountain to kind of complete the set. And plus, I don't know if there's more than one per color. Griffinary. Okay, so we already saw this. Impact Tremors. It's only an uncommon, but it's a good card. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. And so this is the foil version of that. Sentinel of Lost Lore. So when it enters the battlefield, choose 1 or more. Return the target card you own in exile that has an adventure to your hand. Yeah, so that's cool. It doesn't say that it has to have been exiled as part of doing the adventure thing. So someone else could exile your card and maybe you could still get it back. I'm speculating because I'm just seeing the rules for the first time. Or, seeing the text. That's my interpretation. I'll stick to it for now. put target card you don't own in target card you don't own in exile that has an adventure on the bottom. Wait a minute. Put target card you don't own in exile that has an adventure on the bottom of its owner's library. Okay, so I don't know about that one. So you're looking for a card in exile that isn't yours, that has an adventure on it, and then you're sending it to the bottom of its owner's library. So I guess. Okay, so that's like if you want to prevent them from casting the creature side of it. So if it's maybe too frightening, it's better to stick it on the bottom of their deck. Okay, I think that makes sense now. And the other option is exile target player's graveyard. So decisions. Okay, Elevere of the Wild Court. So I know that this is Bobby Christine's favorite. When Elevere of the Wild Court enters the battlefield or attacks, create a Virtuous Roll token attached to another target creature you control. And then whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So I think that would be fun to play a game with. Here is Bramble Familiar. How cute. An Elemental Raccoon. And it's got an adventure on it. Fetch Quest. Mill 7 cards, then put a creature, enchantment, or land card from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. So you've got options. And then if you cast it from exile, you get your Elemental Raccoon as a 2/2, and it's a mana dork. You can tap it for green. Or you can pay 1 and a green and discard a card and return Bramble Familiar to its owner's hand. So, yeah, you can get it back. It's actually kind of cool. Polluted Bonds. So this is, and it's an anime version, I guess. So I think that's probably a good thing. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay. And so this one we're going to look up. It's not foil, but it looks like it's considered borderless anime, probably. Okay. Control find. Polluted Bonds. Anime borderless is 2311. That's nice. Okay. And then we went down to our last normal card. It's Ingenious Prodigy in foil. So it's a rare. It's an X spell, and it's in blue, so I could play it in my Magus Lucia Kane deck, perhaps. Let's see if it's good enough. Skulk, which I would have to look up because I've heard of it before, but never actually seen it in a game. Ingenious Prodigy enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Ingenious Prodigy has a 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may remove a +1/+1 counter from it, and if you do, draw a card. So you can stack it up with counters, and maybe play around with the number of those counters, double them, or add one extra, that kind of thing, and have a lot of card draw on demand. Sounds interesting. Human token and a food token. That food we have seen before. Okay. Yes, I've seen in the pricing, there's stuff about a confetti foil. I have no idea what that even looks like. So, it would be nice if I find one, just to see what it looks like. Okay. Oops. Working our way through the commons. Okay, the first uncommon is a gingerbread hunter. Puny snack. For the adventure, a target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. You can recast it from exile as a giant 5/5, and when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Ice Wrought Sentry. So an elemental soldier with a vigilance, and whenever the sentry attacks, you may pay 1 and a blue. When you do, tap target creature and opponent controls. Whenever you tap an untapped creature opponent controls, Ice Wrought Sentry gets +2/+1 until end of turn. Okay. Gallant Pie Wielder. Dwarf Knight. First Strike. 2/3. Celebration. Gallant Pie Wielder has double strike as long as 2 or more non-land permanents entered the battlefield under your control this turn. And we have a mountain, so at least have one instance of each color. Spreading Seas. So this is an uncommon enchanted tale. So it's an enchantment aura, enchant land. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted land is an island. Okay. It doesn't say it has to. Yeah, so it could be a way to shut down a more dangerous land of someone else's, but you're giving them the most dangerous land in existence, an island. But maybe you want to do that. Or maybe you just need the blue. Need an extra blue source sitting around for your next turn. Who knows? Curiosity in foil, so that's another tale, but it's uncommon. Yeah, so enchant creature, whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Now, this is still over in the uncommon stack. Blossoming Tortoise. So this is a neat art. I like that. So it's a mythic turtle, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, mill 3 cards, then return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Then activated abilities on the lands you control cost 1 less to activate. So that, if you're playing utility lands, that can come in handy. I may have to look that one up. Lord Skitter's Blessing. So this is an extended art version of it. So an enchantment, when it enters the battlefield, create a Wicked Roll token attached to a target creature you control. And at the beginning of your draw step, if you control an enchanted creature, you lose 1 life and you draw an additional card. Okay. Will, Scion of Peace. So I will have to look this up because I have no clue what it's worth. So anyhow, legendary creature, human wizard. Vigilance, spells tap, spells you cast this turn that are white and or blue cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Blind Obedience. And does this qualify as an anime one, or is it not? We shall see. So Extort. So whenever you cast a spell, you may pay white or black. And if you do, opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. There are many cards to look up. Ooh. As foretold in the anime foil. I think that might be good. Human and a food. So much to look up here. I think. Whoa. Okay, good. Got the 2 categories. So let's look at. Now we'll look at these first because that's where I'm at. As foretold, anime borderless foil. Okay, it looks like it's the right thing. It's 33.82. The regular as foretold borderless is 340. So the anime makes a difference. I don't see anything that makes me think this would be confetti, but I don't know what the confetti effect is. But I mean, I'm thinking it's probably like what they did for the Infinity, where there's like for the Infinity or for the it's probably like the hologram, like bits and pieces in the background. I think, but I haven't seen one yet, so I don't know. But anyhow, so that's definitely a good thing. Find a Blind Obedience. So this one's not a foil, so just a regular one. That's just 284. Okay. Let's look at Will. So Will, Scion of Peace, borderless is 587. Oh, Lord Skitter's Blessing. Extended art, maybe? 337. Blossoming Tortoise in foil is 798. So that's not bad. That's just a neat card. Okay. So I think the lesson here is that the anime stuff is banger. Price-wise, there's a high multiple for that. Okay. So our commons. Okay, Twisted Sewer Witch. Human Warlock. When Twisted Sewer Witch enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. So that's the thing in this set. A bunch of rats that can't block. Then for each rat you control, create a Wicked Roll token that's attached to that rat. Okay. So it says if you control another rat, I know another roll on it, put that one into the, yeah. So the thing is that if you put one of these rolls on something you already control, you have to get rid of the other one, put it in the graveyard. With the aura, not the creature. And okay, there's a lot of parentheses going on. No, that's it. So the enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and when the aura is put into a graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life. Okay, so it's a disincentive to kill the creatures that have those tokens on them, I guess. That's my snap understanding. Emberth Veteran, Human Knight, 2/1. You can pay 1 and sacrifice it and create a Young Hero roll token attached to another target creature. So yeah, there's the whole thing of putting it into the graveyard. And then whenever, if there's another one there, whenever this creature attacks, its toughness, if its toughness is 3 or less, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you can kind of help a little puny token or a puny creature grow up. Threadbind Click. Okay, so we're still in the uncommons. So an adventure side is an instant destroy target tapped creature. And you can also cast it from exile after that to get a 3/3 flyer. Another forest. So it's the same as the other forest. So I'm trying to determine, I haven't gotten a double. That's the first double of a land. So I don't know if there's like, sometimes they'll have 2 alternate arts, you know, for an art style. But I don't know if that's the case with these. It may have been just the set of 5. Let's see. Stab Wound. So this is one of the enchanted tales. An enchanted creature gets -2/-2, and at the beginning of upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, that player loses 2 life. It's an uncommon, so I doubt it's worth that much. Here's a Grasp of Fate. So it's in foil, at least. And when it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield. Rankle's Prank. Rankle's a mean MFer. Each player discards 2 cards. So choose 1 or more. Each player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4 life, or each player sacrifices 2 creatures. That's like all awful. It's a mean prankster. Songbird's Blessing. So enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an aura card. You may put that card onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Okay. So, depending on the nature of the auras that you have, I guess that's a combat trick. It could be, anyhow. Gumdrop Poisoner. And this is like maybe I'll have to see what they call it. Looks traditionally would be called a showcase, I think. So Gumdrop Poisoner. You can temp with treats. Instant, get yourself a food token. Then you can cast the creature from exile for 2 and a black for a 3/2 human warlock. It have lifelink, and when it ETBs, up to 1 target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. Okay, so that's where the food token comes into play, so at least you can gain 3 life off of sacking the food. But you have other life gain going on, it could be more dangerous. Shared Animosity. So this is one of the Enchanted Tales. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. Whenever a creature you control attacks, each other. Okay, so if you're doing some kind of typal thing, that does sound good. Scalding Viper. So in a showcasey foil. Elemental Snake when it's a creature. But there's a Steam Clean for 1 and a blue as a sorcery. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And then cast from exile for 1 and a red. You get the Elemental Snake, that's a 2/1, and whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value 3 or less, Scalding Viper deals 1 damage to that player. And there is a Rat's token with a different, with one of the foods we've already seen on the back. So, I don't know. Goes all the way back to Rankle. Okay. So we've got, whoa. The commander, I'm not set up to look up right away. I should have made that decision before I started streaming. I started recording the video. Okay, so control, find, Scalding. Scalding, they do call it showcase. A showcase foil is 313. Gumdrop Poisoner in showcase foil. Is that foil? No, that's just showcase. In showcase, it's 331. Wrinkle's Prank in foil is 206. Okay. I want to look up the. Yeah. Shared Animosity. Shared Animosity, but it's not foil, so it's just $1.43. And we'll find Grasp. Okay, no surprises there. So we're on to the second stack. And close to an hour of me talking to myself. Okay, commons. Yes, eventually I may set myself up to stream live. I've been too busy to sit down and figure it out. I'm more often trying to hype other people's stuff and then get some games in, so it leaves limited time for extra stuff from me. Charade of Numbing Depths. A Merfolk Wizard. 2/3. When Charade enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. So yeah, so then when it would become untapped, you remove the stun counter instead, and it still stays tapped. Whenever you tap one or more untapped creatures your opponents control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Ariette's Tempting Apple. So, got the colorful neonish kind of glow there. So it's a food, but when it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature until end of turn. On tap, that creature gains haste until end of turn. You can pay 2 and tap to sacrifice the apple and gain 3 life. It's a food. Or you can pay 2, tap and sacrifice it, and target opponent loses 3 life. Tenacious Tome Seeker. So that's got Bargain, which is a new mechanic. So you may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token as you cast a spell. And then when this enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Otherwise it's a 3/2 human knight for, whatever synergy purposes you want to use it for. Here's a Plains in the full art foil. It is indeed the same as the previous Plains. So, Utopia Sprawl. So this is one of the Enchanted Tales. Enchant Forest. As Utopia Sprawl enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever Enchanted Forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. Dragon Mantle. Foil. So that's actually cool looking when you get it at the right angle. Enchant creature. When Dragon Mantle enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted creature has red. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So it's one of those kind of things where you can send your excess mana at it to make it swole. Okay. Restless Fortress. So it's another one of these lands you can turn into a creature. So it's this one's a white black mana source, and you can pay 2 white and a black, and it becomes the 1/4 white and black nightmare creature until end of turn. It's still a land. And whenever it attacks, defending player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Extraordinary Journey. So this is one that's got a double X in the cost. When Extraordinary Journey enters the battlefield, exile up to X target creatures. For each of those cards, its owner may play it for as long as it remains exiled. Whenever one or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield, if one or more of them entered from exile or was cast from exile, you draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay, that's a lot to work through, but there it is. Restless Fortress. Yeah, Restless Fortress enters the battlefield tapped. And it's got white or black. Did we just did that one. Okay. But this is the funkier version of it. So we can look that up in a bit. Phyrexian Unlife. You don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. As long as you have 0 or less life, all damage is dealt to you as though its source had infect. So damage is dealt to you in the form of poison counters. So yeah, so you get down to 0. You don't immediately lose, but it only takes 10 to get rid of you. Okay. And a Sleep Cursed Fairy. And is that extended art foil, I think. So Flying Ward 2, it enters the battlefield tapped with 3 stun counters on it. And you can pay 1 and a blue to untap Sleep Cursed Fairy. So, I mean, it's a 3/3 flyer in Ward 2, but you can't do anything with it unless you pay to untap it. I don't know if the does that only apply to like a stun counter? So I think you have to pay the 3 times to get rid of it, or you have to attempt to untap it and get rid of the counters that way. I don't know the benefit of this card. I'm sure there must be one. It's not coming to mind for me. So rat and a food. I believe that is a different food than the ones we've seen so far. So, okay. Let's see. So we got whoa. Whoa, whoa. And so which one am I on here? Here, I'm probably going for Control Find. Phyrexian. Phyrexian Unlife. Okay, it's not expensive. And over to the other set. Control Find. Sleep. Well, there must be a use for the Sleep Cursed Fae. Well, at least in the extended art form, it's extended art foil. is 847. So there's value to it. So there's a strategy where this matters. It's one I haven't played. Control, find, Restless. So the Restless Fortress in Borderless is 371. Okay. And in foil, it's 3. Find extra. Extraordinary Journey is not expensive either. Okay, so I think that was a pack that didn't have much going for it. On to the next pack. Okay. Holy Catapult. Screen Puff. Guide. Not dead after all. Hearth Elemental. So you can discard your hand and draw 2 cards. And then you can cast from exile to get the Hearth Elemental, which is a 4/5. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant sorcery and or have an adventure. So it's a, 4/5 isn't bad stats. So if you can get it at an appropriate discount so that it's worth casting. But notably, it doesn't have any ETBs or anything when it comes to this creature. So if you just need the 4/5 and the going rate is good enough for you, you can cast it. Stroke of Midnight. Destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 white human creature token. So this is in the main set. Twisted Fealty. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. Gains haste until end of turn. Create a Wicked Roll token attached to one target creature. And that creature gets +1/+1. And when the aura is put into the graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life. Okay. There's a mountain. Full art foil. And same art as before. So. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors does 1 damage to each opponent. I think now it's gonna, for me, it's gonna start running together as to what cards I've seen in this session versus what cards I saw in other breaks. Knightly Valor in foil. Enchant creature, and when Knightly Valor enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. Okay. The Goose Mother. Honk. A bird hydra, a legendary bird hydra. With flying, the Goose Mother enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. When the Goose Mother enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. Whenever the Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, draw a card. So there's a lot of love for the Goose Mother out there. Terrifying creature. Blightwing Bandit, flying and death touch. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, Look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. So that one's the one from the commander set, which is the one bit of value I'm not going to be determining this session. Scalding Viper we already seen, and we saw it foiled, so this not so big deal. Waste Not. So Waste Not, whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and whenever an opponent discards a land card, add 2 black, and whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. And here is Shared Animosity in the foil. Treasure token with the food on the back. Okay, getting there. Okay, 4 packs. On my own, I would just tear through these. If I wasn't trying to record something, it would be a frenzy. Freeze in place. Okay, so that's a common. Common. Solitary Sanctuary. When Solitary Sanctuary enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. And whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control. Eerie Interference. So prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn by creatures. So it doesn't stop burn damage or some other stuff that could happen. But still, play your fogs. Johan, Apprentice Sorcerer in foil. So that's an uncommon. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and once each turn you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from the top of your library. And here is the Swamp full art foil. Yeah, so, and unless the collation is weird, it does look like these full arts are just, one of per color. Vampiric Rites. At least I have seen that before, even if it wasn't in this session. We've seen a Utopia Sprawl. This one's in foil. Ingenious Prodigy, we have also seen. Sir Ginger the Meal Ender. So it's not foil, but it's extended art. Sir Ginger the Meal Ender has Trample, Hexproof, and Haste, as long as opponent controls a Planeswalker. Whenever another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Sir Ginger and scry 1. And you can pay 2 and tap to sacrifice Sir Ginger, and you gain life equal to its power. Okay, so it's use a legendary artifact creature food knight. So there's a lot of types there. Yeah. So I think the unique thing there is that as a food, you get to sacrifice for its. Yeah. So if you buff it up, you can gain life off of doing the sacrifice. More sufficient life to justify sacrificing it. But still, the charge of Sir Ginger. Um, Virtue of Knowledge. So a mythic showcase, not foil. Vantress Visions. So you can copy a target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. And otherwise, you can cast it from exile afterwards for a as an enchantment. And it says if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So that's, Panharmonicon stuff, right? Rhystic Study. So it's Purdy. Is this? It's hard for me to tell. I guess it's not a foil. It kind of like has this. Some of the foils are dark, and it's hard to tell. But normally you have to look for the star down here. So this one looks normal, but it's a Rhystic Study, and it's in a new art. So that's good, and that's probably got value to it. And Food Fight! Artifacts you control have 2 sacrifice this artifact. It deals damage to any target equal to 1 plus the number of permanents named Food Fight you control. Yeah, so in Commander, you would have to be doing some copying or stuff. At least it isn't legendary. So if you're doing something that's copying this, you can start to accumulate the damage. Now this is is that the main set? Yeah, that is the main set. So it is something that we can look up. There's a bird and a food. Okay, so I think there was lots of interesting stuff here. And whoa, what? Whoa. So I'm looking at the set symbols to, yeah, I should. Yeah, in the interface I'm working with, they throw them in the same, but they split them in the collection interface into the separate sets. So it's inconvenient to look them up when they're in so many fragmented locations. So let's look at Virtue. Virtue of Knowledge in Showcase is 1184, so that's not bad. That's better than average. Food Fight. Food Fight 230 in the extended art foil. Sir Ginger the Meal Ender is 601 in extended art. Genius Prodigy and foil is just 75 cents. Okay, so that's a nada. Okay, now switch to the other tab. Shared animosity in the foils, 232. Waste Not is 581. Rhystic Study. Yeah, so it isn't, it's not the anime version. Oh, so it's 29.72 for just, so this is the basic heuristic study. So normally I would look at this and I would think, this would be extended art, maybe. Um, but the yeah, it's just the baseline version of the card in the set. But still, it's a 29.72. It's a valuable card. Open sesame. Okay. So there's like at least four or five commons to make our way through. And we have Graceful Takedown. So any number of target enchanted creatures you control and up to one other target creature you control. Wait a minute. Any number of target enchanted creatures you control and up to one other target creature you control. Each deal damage equal to their power to target creature you don't control. Disdainful Stroke. Ashiok's Reaper. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. And a forest. Yeah, I do like these lands. Yeah, so it's like with the Lord of the Rings set, I liked the map land nature of it, but I didn't quite like the way the coloration worked out. They weren't as distinct. These, you can very obviously by eye know which lands they are. Because like in Midnight Hunt, they were more black and white, very dark, and were hard to tell apart. And these I like better than a lot. I mean, I like the stained glass ones. So there's many different options for lands that are cool looking, and I think these are among them. I like them. Season of Growth. Hatching Plans in foil. Okay, that's just a card draw one. The Huntsman's Redemption. So it's a saga. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature or basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And the final chapter is up to 2 target creatures, each get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. There's Sleep Cursed Fairy again. I will have to solve the mystery of how that gets used effectively. Horned Loch Whale. So it's a whale. It looks like it's a. Is that a narwhal? Or it looks like it's got more than one horn. Um, Anyhow, it's got a Lagoon Breach as an instant. The owner of a target attacking creature you don't control puts it on the top or bottom of their library. Then from exile, you can cast it with Flash, Ward 2, and it enters the battlefield tapped unless it's your turn. But it's a 6/6. Okay. Grave Pact. Okay, so I have to check if this is considered anime art or not. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. That's a disincentive to kill your stuff. And that is... Yep, that is one of the enchanted ones, so it could be. Ooh, okay, one of the cards I really wanted. Parallel Lives. In foil. Woohoo! So at least one of my goals is unlocked. Another doubling season I really want, but this is another one where I only have one. I think I only have one copy of Parallel Lives. There might be a second, but anyhow, these are cards that the strategies I play. These would come in handy, and having multiple copies is great. I don't have to swap cards around. But yeah, so in effect, would create one or more tokens under your control. It creates twice that many of those tokens instead. So, yes, you can see I have an Infinite Tokens mat, and I like decks that create tokens. I also like doing counters, and I'm usually trying to mash the two together, and not always so well, because I'm trying to do too much. But that's awesome. Mouse and food. So there are things to look up there. I think most of them aren't a big deal, but well, no, the Grave Pact might be. So, which one am I on? Let's look up the Grave Pact first. Grave Pact. Anime Borderless. Let's see what that looks like. Yes, this is the anime portion. This one on the Borderless anime is 1597 TCG mid. So that's good. The As Foretold was a much bigger deal. Although that one I think was foil, so that might have had something to do with it. Oh, I should have stayed on there. Well, lives. First, let's see which art is which. Okay, so this is the regular art. So in foil, this is 3044 TCG mid. Now we already know the Sleep Cursed is maybe worth a little, but not a lot. I doubt the rest of these are going to be. Horned. Horned Lockwell is a cheapo. And find the Huntsman's Redemption. Foil is 99 cents. Okay. But yeah, so we got the anime one and we got the parallel lives. So that was excellent. We still got 2 packs to go. And we're at an hour and a half. So thanks for sticking. No, real talk. I would be amazed if anybody is actually hearing me talk right now, because I assume people put these on fast forward or just kind of like look for cool cards on the screen, because this is a long trek to get to the end, because I'm blathering on so much. Comments. Evolving Wilds. Okay. So then we're to an Ego Drain. So that is a very impressive art. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. If you don't control a fairy, exile a card from your hand. Okay. Woodland Acolyte. A human cleric with an adventure. Instant, Mend the Wilds. Put a target permanent card from your graveyard on top of your library. Okay, so that can come in handy. And when you cast it as a creature, when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And it enters as a 2/2 human cleric. Archive Dragon in foil. So flying in Ward 2, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. Yeah, and I follow Tyler Walpole on Twitter, and that's his art. Pretty sweet. And here we have a Plains with full art. Curiosity. The End, which I tried to work through in one of my other ones. I'm not super impressed with it. Raid Bombardment, I think we've seen before. Loamcrafter Fawn. So this is a commander one. When Loamcrafter Fawn enters the battlefield, you may discard 1 or more land cards. When you do, return up to that many target non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Huh. Interesting. Heartflame Duelist in Showcase. So it's got a Heartflame Slash as an adventure instant. So it deals 3 damage to any target. And then if you cast it as the Human Knight, it's a 3/1 Human Knight. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. That could lead to some interesting strategies. Copy Enchantment. You may have Copy Enchantment enter the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment on the battlefield. And it's only 2 and a blue. Yeah, and I don't know if I've ever actually seen one. So we have Elusive Otter in foil, and I think this is Showcase. Grove's Bounty, X and a green. Distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. If you cast the creature, it's got prowess. And creatures with power less than Elusive Otter's power can't block it. And a treasure, and a food. Yeah, so I'm wondering if, well, from the commander set, so that's the little black box here, as to what prices those are. Those are main set. This is a enchantment tale. Enchanted tale. So I'm in the main set here. Find elusive, which had an extra letter in it. So elusive otter in showcase foil is only $3. Okay. Control find Heart Flame Duelist. That's just showcase. 205. Okay. Okay, but that leaves the copy enchantment, which I'm assuming should be worth something. It's actually not so much. It's $2.98 in just the basic version here. But still. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not protecting you from the legendary rule, so maybe it needs extra spice. Okay, we're in the final pack here. Okay. So I think not keeping a running tally here is allowing me to enjoy the cards for what they are. I do think we hit some good stuff. And we definitely hit some good stuff. And I think it adds up, so at least so far, I don't feel bad about this. I'm happy in particular because I got a particular card I wanted. But, that doesn't pay for the box. But, maybe the rest of the stuff together comes close. Because this is much less expensive than the non-premium premium sets. Okay, welcome to Sweet Tooth. So the first chapter, create a 1/1 white human creature token. 2, create a food token. And then 3, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of foods you control. So yes, definitely belongs in a food-centric deck. Yeah. Okay, that's an uncommon. Yeah, even though my Lord of the Rings Food and Fellowship custom deck is new, I may have to think about including some of the cards from this set. Shrouded Shepherd, Spirit Warrior. First, the adventure side is Cleave Shadows, Sorcery Adventure. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. Okay. And then as a creature itself, when Shrouded Shepherd enters the battlefield, target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Um, I mean, but how can a Shrouded Shepherd not have Shroud? Okay. Splashy Spellcaster. Elemental Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a sorcerer role token attached to up to one other target creature you control. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and it has whenever this creature attacks, scry one. Island. Foil. Full art. Okay, it's only our second island, it looks like. Grasp of Fate, we've seen a couple of times. Season of Growth, foil. Virtue of Knowledge. Okay, so that's non-showcase, but Thunderous Debut. That's pretty cool looking. So it's sorcery with bargain. And since this is an extended art, it looks like they aren't spelling out the bargain in the rules text on this card. But we've seen it on other cards, and it's like you can sacrifice an artifact, token, or something else when you cast it. And so this says, look at the top 20 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them. If the spell was bargained, put the revealed cards onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put the revealed cards into your hand, then shuffle. So it helps you find something if it's within the top 20 cards of your deck. So it's not a full tutor, but it does give you a lot of a lot of runway to find something. Restless Spire. So it's one of these turn a land into a creature until end of turn lands. And in borderless. Dawn of Hope. So whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. 3 and a white. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. Okay, we've reached the end of our journey because we hit the token here. Final card. Okay, Lord Skitter's Blessing in extended art foil. And a human token and a food token. So I think there are lots of fun cards in this set. There's a lot of enchantments. There's food. There's rats. There's fairies and other stuff. Okay, these are the uncommons. We're not going to focus on those. But you get a good mix of so you get these other subsets of cards. So we got our mythics and our rares. We have our enchanted tales, and then there are commander cards. So the commander cards are mysteries out of here. I haven't even looked at Dawn of Hope. The Virtue of Knowledge was, I think, worth a bit in the other version, but really did get an anime version, a Rhystic Study. Sir Ginger is of note. That's the fancier Virtue of Knowledge. Goose Mother. I don't even know if I looked up Goose Mother price-wise. No, I forgot if the prank was worth anything or not. That's like the Blossoming Tortoise at least was getting up there. I think Will is at least of note. Forget how much the blind obedience was, but I know some people like that. But an As Foretold foil, anime, Polluted Bonds anime. I didn't look up Elevere, but still, I'll put that in there for Bobby Christine's sake. Force Volition. The Moonshaker Cavalry. Yes, that's good. I don't know if I looked up the Greater Oromancy. Or that. Somehow, did I miss the greatest one of all? Did I already pull it? I must have already put it out there. Yeah, okay. So there's that Parallel Lives. So that was like, goals. I wanted one of those. And there's definitely some excellent stuff in here. Whether or not it adds up to the price of a box, I don't know. I may or may not do my finance thing at the end of it to try and figure it out. But for now, I just want to like enjoy the cards. But I feel decent about this this box. So where did I put it? Aha. So that has been my break of a collector booster box of Magic the Gathering Wilds of Eldraine. So this was just making it out there, and I was happy my order, I just a regular guy. I mean, I bought this stuff online from a supplier, and happened to get it delivered earlier than I thought I was going to get it. So I thought I was going to have to wait until, the weekend or next week to actually receive it. So anyhow, I hope you liked seeing some of the cool cards in this set, and kind of share my happiness at hitting one of the cards that I really wanted to get. So now doubling season was already at the top of the list, so it's staying at the top of the list. I'm sure there's other great stuff in this set that I want to see, and like this, this Moonshaker Cavalry is definitely not too shabby. So Selesnya, I haven't done mono white. I usually have a splash of green at least in a lot of the stuff. I do depart from it, but I'm sure I can have fun with that. So anyhow, I've been rambling on far too long. If you've watched any of this, thank you. I do have a lot more stuff to break, and I hope you'll check out some of the rest of the videos for what I've got for the rest of this release. So take care. Bye.